Hello, welcome to episode 12 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, and I am joined today by guess who? It's Mr. Kevin Whelan, founder of WealthBuilders. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Chris.
Good to be back with you once again.
Yeah.
We are enjoying these podcasts, aren't we?
I think we are, yeah.
I hope other people are too as well.
Well, somebody said to me they're enjoying the little faux pas and the little jokes that we have between us, which is really important because, you know, this is supposed to be an enjoyable journey. And talking about the journey, we've been on an incredible one so far.
We have.
I think it's probably time to maybe, you know, check in with people, see where they are, remind them of a few things. And I think more than anything else, we want to avoid the drift. We want to avoid people being drifters. Now, you remember
Episode 2,
when I described the drifters and the DIYers and the dynamics. And we want everybody to be dynamic. And dynamic means taking action, Chris. So we don't want to be a sponge and just soak up this information or be entertained, albeit, you know, we want to have fun with it. We want people to take action because in the end, Chris, my reputation hangs on the name of the company. It's WealthBuilders. And the wealth that's being built is the wealth of our members. So we need to focus on that. And we need to maybe take a serious look at wrapping up some of the lessons we've learned so far and getting people to a place now where it's time to start taking action if they've just been thinking about taking action. And unlike the sponge which just soaks it up, it's time to really drill down and do something. So why don't we focus on one or two of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. And it ties in nicely with being episode 12 because we've got an announcement, haven't we, in that we have created 12 modules really to help someone who is straddling, shall we say, between insecurity and security.
Yeah.
So really needing that catalyst, if they haven't already identified it, to propel them towards action, to actually do the exercises we've talked about over the last few weeks, things such as debits and last week we talked about first, and actually providing the support along the way.
Yeah, because I think, you know, the reason why 95% of the population really don't make it when it comes to wealth isn't there's a lack of information. I mean, we're providing all the right information here in terms of principles and values and things that people do, or could do rather. What we see is people just get caught up. And let's be honest, the vast majority of people who don't make it to security, or less even so than independence, tend to be caught in the trap of trading time for money. And that trap of trading time for money invariably means one major area that gets missed, which is the dedication of time to take action. And it's that, you know, we talked last week about T and the first model of leverage and trying to create or box time. So you're creating specific time in your week or in your month and always doing something in the month that allows you to take action. So that's why we thought to create it in 12 modules so that worst case, if people follow my guidance and say, never let a month go by without doing something for your wealth, do this.
Yeah.
And if we create 12 modules, then people are no more than a year away from that transformation. Now, some people, the dynamics, will do this in 12 weeks, Chris. There's no doubt about that. And we can also see, can't we, from the Wealth Builder membership forum, how fast some people are on it and they're getting into their debits, they're saving money, they're reapplying the money, they're doing it, and it's absolutely brilliant. But the vast majority of people still are maybe thinking about it, liking it, but not just getting around to the doing.
Well, that's right.
I think it's really important that we give them a framework to do. But I don't think we got time in this episode to cover all 12 modules, but we could give a sneak preview, right?
Yeah, I'd love to go through at least the first 6. And what we're going through here is the Wealth Builders Foundation Program. So 12 modules, a 12-month membership.
Yeah.
And really the point, as we've said, is that having the ideas and the education is great, but what are you going to do about it? And so by bringing everything together with the community aspect as well, so the support, the accountability, which is really important along the way, and to see others who are doing it and getting great results and just be really motivated and switched on by that as well.
Yeah, and you know, I like the idea that up until now, of course, Chris, it's been you and I sharing ideas and the theory, but future episodes will definitely be looking and diving deeper into some of the wealth pillars in more detail and get some of our members to give their own case studies so that, it brings the education that we're giving to life. Now, on the subject of education, we know wealth always begins there, but it doesn't end there. It ends there with action. So I think we do want to provide those people who perhaps want to take their time, perhaps want to, maybe even some people who haven't tuned in before, Chris, just getting to hear of us for the first time. I don't mind if we create the education material to maybe hope that for some people, it's the education, the principles we give themselves are a catalyst. So when you're getting to know your reason why, sometimes there isn't a strong enough call to action. Now, mine is incredibly powerful and it always powered me through, never ever deviated from the plan. But of course, that's not true for everyone. And we don't want family tragedies to be the reason that calls people into action. But we hope that maybe the education we provide can be that call to action. So we will publish the information in a way that people can consume in their own time without necessarily connecting, without necessarily looking for support. And like everything we do in education, we'll give a guaranteed money back, right? So if people don't like what they're reading, they can have their money back. It's that simple. But I don't think it's how wealth is truly built, Chris. I think we have to be honest and say that people get much better results, faster results, more enjoyable results if they get some guidance, if they get some support, if they get some accountability. In a busy life, sometimes we need that. But like, people who go training for a marathon, it's always good to have a running buddy, I guess.
I've done that.
You've done that? It's always good to have somebody who can, help you get up in the morning when the rain's pouring and you don't feel like it. So
that's right.
So having some kind of wealth buddy, which is really our coaches, our mentors, really, to help people stay accountable. So let's focus on some of that. Yes, we'll write the education down, but I think the core thing we want to share with people is the importance of getting some guidance to gets it done quicker, really.
So let's share a little bit about what the foundation program is all about. And as we've said, it's really aimed at anyone who is not yet at a level of financial security. And would you mind just reviewing as to, what does it mean to be at a level of financial security? How do you know if you are or aren't at that point?
Okay. Well, it's really quite easy because if you're trading time for money and you stop working, the money stops. So the clue in knowing whether you're at financial security is whether you'd have a flow of money coming in from things you've accumulated, things you set up, assets, in other words, that are in place and working to generate you flows of cash. If you have enough assets that would automatically generate cash, that would be the equivalent of your bills, your normal life, nothing too exorbitant, nothing too fancy at all, just a decent life. You can live your life and you're okay. Everything's paid for pretty much. That's financial security. It's not accounting for fantastic holidays and retreats and all sorts of other things that you would get at independence. That's life with no compromises. But in security, you'd compromise a little, but that's okay because the purpose of getting to security is to give you a platform on which to grow towards independence. And for those who are trading time for money, security basically means you could sack your boss. You could change your direction. You could change your relationship with your time and not be in a full-time job, say, committed to lots of commuting. You could still have a job, but work in a different environment, maybe closer to home, whatever it would be. Like you've just moved somewhere within walking distance of where, you're currently doing your work and your e-work, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, what better opportunities than that? How much time are you spending commuting, Chris? None.
Yeah.
So
that's right. So the foundation program is really teaching you how to create recurring income from assets.
That's right. And what we're trying to do is say, let's aim to try and help you get to that place of financial security. And you remember, you have to come up with your own number, Chris. Everybody's number is different because we've all got different bills. Some of us have got mortgages, some have not. I obviously don't. Some have got, different levels of expenditure that they have and want to keep. And it's not penny pinching. And I've said, and I'll say again, you cannot save your way to wealth. You cannot restrict your way to wealth. You have to expand your means continually. But sometimes it means you've got to at least understand what your basic means are in order to reach that level first. And then from there, that's a foundation or a springboard to go to the next level. So the foundation program will get people there.
And we've said it's 12 modules, and we've broken that down into 4 different sections. So section 1, and they have to really be followed step by step.
You have to go in the order, because if you don't go in an order, you're turning a wheel out of balance. So, each step has been written and chosen and crafted deliberately to make it a logical and easy to follow series of steps, almost like your sat nav. So it's a GPS to get to financial security. So if there's a tried and tested way to do it, it's a good reason to follow it, unless, you're a maverick and you want to do things entirely on your own, but then they probably wouldn't fit with our values anyway.
So section 1, we've called it self-wealth.
Yeah.
So this is really the foundation of the wealth mindset.
Right.
And we've talked in previous episodes, Wealth Dynamics, episode 6. But module 1 begins with your reason why. So it's having that strong catalyst. So really making sure that you know the reason why you're going to get up early to do this extra work, to really push yourself. So that's module 1. And then we've said module 2 is the 5 levels of wealth.
Yeah.
So knowing where you are now and where you want to get to.
Yeah, and it's important for that calibration just to spend, even if it's, we're not asking people to draw up a budget and say, how much they're spending on this and that, but a feeling. If you've got a feeling your expenses are 3,000 a month or whatever they are, 4,000, 10,000, it doesn't really matter what the figure is, but you've got a feeling for what that is. And then that's the feeling that you commit to as your security figure. And it's always good to have the independence figure, because the independence is something that you should be aspiring to, not shying away from. It's coming. It's just more turns of the wheel. So once you get past foundation, then we'll take them on to a much higher level and get much deeper into how to accelerate each different wheel that they turn, each different asset that they choose to invest in. And remember, each asset is multifaceted. There are many, many, many different ways of achieving it. So we have to, I think, talk with people to try and help them understand which is the best way for them. So knowing where you are, knowing where you're going is definitely a core component of the self-wealth.
Yeah, and that's module 2. And then module 3 in section 1 is understanding your value. So we use Wealth Dynamics, and we will provide a token for everyone in the program to do that. So just to recap on why it's so important to understand your value and how we excel in certain areas, and other areas where we're not so strong, we really shouldn't be focusing our time there.
Yeah, I mean, in truth, wealth flows to value. So if that's true, wealth always flows to value, then you ought to know where is the best way that you deliver value. Whether that's in a team, if you're currently in a job, or currently in a business, where's your best way to deliver value? And the wealth dynamic gives you, I think as you framed it, Chris, the compass point. It helps you choose not just where you're going, not just where you should focus, and never be mediocre at weaknesses, be outstanding in strengths, and to team up with other people to complement you where you've got challenges and weaknesses, let's say. And that's how we work, So it's easier then to grow if you've got all parts of the compass covered. And that's really the essence of that part of the program.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's section 1 covered off. Then section 2 is your wealth foundation. So we've said before, you can't save your way to wealth, but we can at least start to plug some of those leaks.
Yeah. So you have to plug leaks, because if you don't plug leaks, whichever analogy you care to use, if it's a boat, it's going to sink. If it's a building, it's going to fall down, because ultimately you're undermining the foundations. And it's just good practice. So the wealth foundation actually, Chris, albeit it's an integral part of this program, in truth, it's something that should be revisited by our members at any time, at least once a year, to get into the real process of taking a fresh look at the things that are going out in their life and what they can save money on. And we're given a whole raft of different ideas in the debits. But of course, with the program, we'll be introducing very specific ideas, case studies from our clients who are saving money, to that, to give people just an extra direction, because sometimes you don't always see everything if you're doing it on your own.
And you won't just be able to progress all the way through the course without actually kind of ticking off that you've done each module. And then we'll say, okay, great.
Yeah, move on to the next one. Yeah, so we're all doing our homework like good students. But in truth, we are students of wealth. It isn't this thing you can master in 12 modules. I think it will help people get to security, but security is not being wealthy yet. So, that principle of doing things in the right order, like we talked about the wheel was designed purposefully, so it's turned in the one direction and it's turned in an order and sequence that works. As soon as you try and get out of whack with that, problems occur. And we see that all the time, particularly with the due diligence stage and things like that. And we know this to be true. So I think I'm going to ask our members to trust us that we're not trying to be smart about this. We're just trying to work on principles. And rather than opinions, which we won't dispense, we're trying to give just good principles for them to follow. So definitely getting into that financial foundation of self and finances is key to moving forward.
We've said wealth building is a scientific process, and this is the process.
This is the process.
Step by step. So module 4 there is debits. It's really diving into those different areas to find out where you can create an extra few £100 a month perhaps, and then reinvest that into your wealth building activities.
Yeah, or shore up your roof, So we've seen a number of our clients say, the key thing, if there was more month left at the end of their money, that they didn't actually have an emergency fund. They felt like perhaps they weren't insured if something had gone wrong and they couldn't pay their mortgage. All sorts of different things that we need to have in place. So, the debits isn't just taking money and applying it to build wealth. It's also being very safe and making sure the roof is well protected as well.
Which segues nicely into module 5.
Well, it all works then, doesn't it?
Which is the roof. Yeah. And we've covered the roof, but just remind an overview just so people are clear about the aspects of the roof.
Yeah, it's important not to be confused, because when you look at the logo, which is the foundation at the bottom, the 7 pillars in the middle, and the roof, it kind of, some people could be confused by thinking you kind of build your foundation, then you build your wealth, then you put the roof on top. You don't do it that way. If you imagine the foundation and the roof are a frame, like a building going up in a modular construction, the essence of it is you lay a good foundation and you make it watertight so you can build on the inside without fear of major losses in terms of, at least if it comes to a building, it's water ingress, isn't it really? So from a wealth perspective, it's getting the emergency fund sorted, making sure if you've got some things that need to be insured, you do that. Also looking to do some very basic things, the things that people don't get round to. They never, ever get round to making their will. I'll get round to that. But they don't get round to it. So that's the point of the guide, isn't it? It's saying, right, we're now going to help you get this done. Whoever you get it done with, that's not the key. It's done. Is it done? Yes, it's done. Right, move on. And it's very simple, because you can create a will in for a few £100, or even actually we have got a template that we can give to people that gives some things to think about so they don't overthink it, because sometimes the people with the steel dynamic go, well, I can't think of that and I can't think of that, and what happens if this and what happens if that. Just get a basic will, because you can always change it. So those are the elements that take shape in the roof.
In module 5. Fantastic. And then module 6 is creating leverage.
Right.
Which was last week's episode. We focused on the first model.
But, the essence of, if you create a podcast, you're really just talking about what's possible. The idea of leverage is you choose what's right for you. So you combine the essence of who you are on your wealth dynamic, what you do for a living now, where you are on your wealth level, what is the most appropriate method by which you can start to build, which pillar should you choose, and which tactic within each pillar. As I said, pillars are multifaceted. So, something to do with property, if you were doing, you're not going to be doing, if you're time poor and it's your first thing, you're never going to be doing a commercial to residential conversion and building 50 apartments. That doesn't happen at level 1. That might be just understanding the principles of buy-to-let, or just understanding the principles of multiple occupancy property, or just understanding the principles of student accommodation. It'd be very basic things. And as we help people understand that, of course, we've got a huge network of tried and trusted educators, and we know who to connect people with in order to help them explore that. Because not every time will we get it right. Sometimes people look at the asset they want to build and realize, whoops, that's not for me. And that's part of turning the wheel.
So why don't we get into the next couple of sections in the next 6 modules in our next podcast episode.
Yeah.
And we're launching the foundation program on Wednesday, the 1st of May. So
another Wealth Builder Wednesday.
Wealth Builder Wednesday, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So what we'll do next episode, we'll cover off the next 6 modules.
Okay.
And then give you all of the details if this is something that you feel you need right now. If you don't really know what to do as a next first step, then I think this will really help.
Yeah, and it's designed to help people take action. And the thing that's really important, Chris, to relay the fears of the steely people who'll be thinking, ooh, cost, is this. That reputationally, Wealth Builders is built on the premise of people building wealth, and that's it. And everything we do, if individuals are going to work with us, then I'll make a promise, and we'll put the promise in writing anyway, which is whatever they spend with us, if they don't double their return, that's twice the return, that's a hell of a return, then we'll work with them until that return is achieved. Yeah, there's absolutely no danger. We want people to take action and get wealthy. We're not looking to sell a course. We're not looking to create some education that sits on the shelf. So we will do that. We'll give that double profit guarantee to make sure that, in truth, then, if they spend money with us, they're going to make money. So not spending money with us is bad news because it means they won't be making any wealth. So I want to make it so irresistible, Chris, that this foundation program has got to impact the lives of many people. And I think we'll probably offer some kind of, offer for people at the launch because that's logical. Yeah. And we want people, those who are willing to take action. So I guess we'll announce that next week.
Yeah. And I think we'll be putting in a bit of extra time for those initial people as well, won't we?
We've got to make it work. Otherwise we'll be, reputationally, we can't have that. We've got to get people up to that security level, as soon as is possible, really, depending on their time commitment. But we'll give it ours. That's for sure.
I can't wait.
No, me neither. I'm looking forward to it. 1st of May.
Good stuff. That was great. Well, I'm looking forward to the next episode where we'll cover off the next 6 modules. Okay. And that concludes with a full turn of the wheel. Yeah. And what happens when we have a full turn of the wheel?
We get wealthy, mate. That's what happens.
Well, that's what Wealth Talk's all about. Thanks for the insights, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Speak soon.
See ya.